What's up, guys? My name's Brandon, and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to be discussing even more new features in iOS 26. We're going to talk about how AppleCare just got a makeover, fresh details on the iPhone Fold, a crazy AirTag story, and much more. And by the way, if you want to continue the conversation off of YouTube, be sure to join the Apple Den Discord server, linked down in the description below. We talk a lot about the betas and everything else Apple related there. Okay, so this week was a jam-packed week when it comes to Apple software updates because we got quite a few. So first off, on Monday, we did get iOS 18.6 RC, which was actually mislabeled as iOS 18.6 Beta 4 at first. Apple did correct that, but we do have the RC of iOS 18.6 if you are still there. That means that we should be seeing that released to the public next week, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So we did not get an iOS 26 beta on Monday, but on Tuesday, we did get iOS 26 Beta 4 for registered developers. And then 2 days later on Thursday, we got iOS 26 public beta, the very first public beta, along with a re-release of iOS 26 Beta 4 for registered developers. And there was nothing new in that re-release. It was basically just lining up the build numbers and everything else with the public beta. But there's a lot to talk about with iOS 26 Beta 4 and public Beta 1. So I'm just going to refer to it as Developer Beta 4 throughout this video, but it's the same as the public beta. So as you guys know, if you watched my What's New video, a lot has changed because you'll see that if you go into anywhere where you have liquid glass, especially when you kind of scroll down like that, liquid glass is back. I don't want to say it's back because it was never gone, but you guys know what I mean. I don't mean it literally when I say it's back, but liquid glass is a lot more similar to how it was in betas 1 and 2. It's not as frosted as it was in beta 3. So Apple is just toying around with the design. They're just tweaking the design in applications and just trying to find that perfect middle ground. That's what a beta is all about. That's the reason they do beta testing in general. They also listen to us, which is nice because they can see our feedback in real time along with the feedback requests. So it's really good to see liquid glass here in beta 4. I think the overall, sentiment is that everybody is loving the design in beta 4. So that is good to see. Now we did also get some additional new features and changes in beta 4 of iOS 26 as well. So I did cover quite a few of those in my What's New video, but there are even more that I have not discussed. So first off, and by the way, I did mention this in my What's New video, but I was not able to show you a live, screenshot of it actually working, but you can see that we now have news applications. The notifications get summarized now, and there's a new line under here that says summarized by Apple Intelligence. So that is something new in beta 4. I also got this in beta 4 once again. So this is not new, but it did pop up for me again for the first time since beta 1 for some reason. And this is about the unread message count for your badges on the home screen. Also in the clock application, when you have a sleep schedule set up, the glyph icons are now purple. So I believe these used to be like a green color, but now you can see next to bedtime, next to wake up, and right there in the middle, the little sparkle, those are all now purple. And also on the home screen, if you have the sleep widget like I do, it now shows that in purple as well, as opposed to green like it was before. Now there was also a change to the contextual menu. So I'm not sure if this was there previously, but I just noticed it for some reason here in beta 4. But now if you pull up the contextual menu, when you select text or anything like that, you'll see that this arrow now has a little background behind it. So it has a circular background. And when you tap on that, it now opens up like this instead of having to scroll over to get to, adding a link, attaching a file and things like that. So now it just goes up and down like this. And also you have that nice little animation there. So if I go ahead and do it again, you can see the little animation that pops out and you have this new contextual menu now with iOS 26 public beta, aka developer beta 4. Now, one of my favorite features in iOS 26 beta 4 is the fact that we have better readability on the lock screen. So now if you go to the lock screen, which by the way, you can see for TV, it shows summarized by Apple Intelligence there as well. That did not show up before. But anyway, you can see that it darkens the wallpaper. So I did mention this in my What's New video, but I just want to show you again in case you missed it, but it's working very well. Like I have to say, after using the software now for a few days, days. This makes a big difference for readability on the lock screen. So anybody that had any complaints or any doubts about the readability on the lock screen with iOS 26 in general, I believe all of those should be resolved and no longer be an issue after this latest beta, because it gets darker, and again, it's dynamic. So it doesn't like mess up your wallpaper and make it look dark. It just changes, it gets dynamic, it gets darker as you scroll and as more notification bubbles fill up the screen. And also on my main device, I have been using the default wallpaper with the new dynamic mode. So if we go over here to our collections, I believe this is it right here. So if we go to, yes, this is it right here. So if we go to customize and we go all the way back to the beginning, we now have dynamic, which is going to change colors throughout the day. So I've been using this on my main device and it works well. I'm a sucker for dynamic wallpapers, so I love the fact that they added this with the latest beta. Now, there were also some pretty interesting strings found in the code of iOS 26 Beta 4, including one that I'm pretty excited about, honestly. As somebody who wears their Apple Watch to sleep every single night, yes, I wear this metal band and this Apple Watch Ultra to bed every night, no problem. But it looks like in Beta 4, there was code hinting at Apple working on a sleep score feature for the Apple Watch. So as you know, this is a big feature for the Whoop. So if you have a Whoop band, you would know that you get a sleep score. I believe the Galaxy Watch does that as well. Most, anything that tracks your sleep really gives you a sleep score at the end of the day, but Apple does not for some reason, but that might be coming with a future version, which is exciting. Also this week, we saw Apple update the Apple Sports application. So there are a few new changes here in version 3.1.1. So you can see that we now have Premier League, options in there. We have new stats for box scores, making it easier to see how your favorite players are performing. And also Apple Sports is now available in Mexico. And then also Apple did push out a minor bug fix update for the Apple Invites application version 1.3.2. But something more interesting that we saw this week is that T-Mobile officially launched their Starlink powered T satellite service, which is going to bring text messaging via satellite to remote areas that don't have any cell coverage. And this service works on more than 650 satellites and supports all iPhones from the iPhone 13 and newer. And this will be free for some T-Mobile customers. So if you're on the Go 5G Next plan or the Experience Beyond plan, it will be free. Otherwise, it's $10 a month. Anyways, let's talk a little bit more about iOS 26 Beta 4, aka Public Beta 1, in terms of performance and battery life before we talk about what to expect next, because I think a lot of people have it wrong with what we're getting next after this. But anyways, so as far as performance goes, I have to say that performance, I don't know, it feels better. It might be placebo, but it definitely feels better to me here on Beta 4. So the Geekbench scores were a little bit higher, but those don't always tell the whole story. But just in terms of frame rate issues, I had a lot of frame rate issues, a lot of frames dropping on my main device. This test device is pretty much always fine, but the main device I use every day had a lot of hitching, a lot of lag, a lot of just frame drops in different applications. And most of those are gone. Like, they're still there. You can still tell it's a beta. There's still work to be done. It's not completely solved, but it is a little bit better here with this fourth beta and the public beta, which I assumed it would be, but sometimes you just never know with Apple. We're still not going to get the main big update to performance and battery life until close to the RC build, but I think it's pretty good here on Beta 4. And I've had a lot of people ask me, should I install iOS 26 public beta on my main device? And I would say that after using it now for a couple of days, I would say that it's fine for most people even interested in getting a beta on their device. If you're watching this video, that means that you probably understand bugs and you're probably okay with having some bugs and having some issues, not having the best performance, not having the best battery life, but you just want to have access to the new features and beta test, then I would say it's fine for a daily device. This is really the only time I've recommended it to people, because I've been using it since Beta 1, developer Beta 1, but now it's gotten to a point where it's actually, something I can recommend to most people as long as they're okay and they understand that it's still a beta. It's called public beta, but some people still forget that it's a beta. Now, as far as battery life goes, you can see I have my main device pulled up right here, and I have it set on Tuesday, which is when the fourth developer beta was released. And you can see that battery life is really not that much better on Beta 4. So aside from just these charts, I can just tell you right now that battery life feels about the same as it did previously on Beta 3, which is not a terrible thing. Battery life wasn't bad on Beta 3, but it wasn't good either. And I would say that the same goes here for this fourth developer beta, aka public beta 1. So battery life, don't expect it to be great. Don't expect a big improvement over previous betas. We still have some work to go there. And again, usually the battery life improvements specifically, those come towards the RC build. So don't expect, major changes to battery life until then. We might see little small tweaks and changes, but I wouldn't expect anything major until that final release or the RC. Okay, so now let's talk about what to expect next from Apple, because for some reason, a lot of people are thinking that we're on a weekly release schedule right now, which that most likely is not the case. So typically, Apple goes on a 1-week release schedule after the 5th beta. So that means that we're most likely still currently on a 2-week release schedule. So if we got beta 4 this week on the 22nd, that means that we should not be seeing iOS 26 beta 5 until the week of August 4th. So we should be skipping next week. Now we are going to see iOS 18.6 released to the public most likely next week, unless we get a second RC or something crazy like that, which is possible. But if not, we should be seeing iOS 18.6 released to the public next week. And then the following week, on the week of August 4th, is when we should see iOS 26 developer beta 5 and public beta 2. And then after that round of betas is when we will most likely shift over to a weekly release schedule all the way up until close to the end, close to the RC build of iOS 26. All right, so now let's move on to some more Apple news. And let's start with AppleCare getting a nice makeover this week for the first time in a long time. So this week, Apple launched a new AppleCare plan called AppleCare One. And this plan allows you to add coverage for up to 3 products for $20 a month. And you could add additional products for $6 a month per device. So if you subscribe to this plan, you do get all the benefits that come with AppleCare Plus, such as unlimited repairs, battery coverage, theft and loss protection, including for the iPad and the Apple Watch. So it's not just for the iPhone. But in my opinion, one of the best reasons to sign up for this, because you're not really saving anything if you're just getting, the AppleCare Plus benefits. There's more to it than that. And I think one of the big reasons people are going to sign up for this is the fact that you can add devices up to 4 years old, and you can also move devices in and out of the plan at any time. And I think adding devices that are 4 years old, up to 4 years old, is huge because a lot of people miss that 60-day cutoff. So if you don't buy AppleCare within the first 60 days, you just can't add it at all. But now with this plan, you can. Now, this is only available in the US as of now. This might expand in the future, but it's only in the US for now. Now, this plan, honestly, I think it is a good deal, but you have to have the right products. So I wrote about this in my take on the Apple Den. If you're not subscribed to the Apple Den newsletter, make sure you are subscribed. I put it here in this My Take section, which I do for every section. But basically, I gave an example here. So if you have an iPhone 16 Pro, an Apple Vision Pro, and an M4 iPad Pro, it would cost you $47 a month for AppleCare Plus if you subscribed, individually. So you would save a decent amount if you actually did shift over to the AppleCare One plan. However, most people are not going to be in that situation. And in that case, it's going to be about the same cost as doing the AppleCare Plus individually per product. But again, I still think this plan makes sense if you're always going to have multiple products, because you can add older products and you can switch them in and out no problem without having to keep rebuying AppleCare Plus on each device that you buy. Now, there is one big caveat to this plan, and it's that you have to be on the same Apple account. So you can't do this if you have like 2 kids. You can't just do this for both your kids and your iPhone. That doesn't work because they're not going to have the same Apple account as you. So that's the little gotcha there. They don't allow you to do that, but maybe eventually they will have more of an AppleCare family plan. But as of right now, that is not this. You have to have all your devices on the same Apple account. Oh, and the other big downside is that there is no annual payment option. You can only do monthly, which is kind of a bummer. But I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. Are you somebody who's going to subscribe to this plan? I need to know your thoughts down there in the comments below, because I've seen a lot of mixed reactions on this, but it seems like most people are pretty excited that this is at least an option now. So yesterday, I uploaded my Z Fold 7 review here on the channel. If you missed that, I will leave a link down in the description below and also up in the cards up above. But basically, I reviewed the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 from an iPhone user's perspective, and it honestly blew me away. I've been using that phone quite a bit, but now this week we got some new details on the iPhone Fold as far as the display size goes, because this actually got leaked by TrendForce. So they're saying that Apple's first foldable iPhone is expected to feature a 7.8-inch inner display and a 5.5-inch outer display. Now, this does align with previous predictions by Ming-Chi Kuo, and also they are reiterating, TrendForce is reiterating Bloomberg and saying that Apple will likely launch the foldable in the second half of next year. And this iPhone Fold is expected to be crease-free by using a laser-drilled metal display plate to reduce bending stress. So these sizes are very interesting because when you open the Fold up, it's going to be a similar size to the Z Fold 7. The Z Fold 7 is 8 inches, so it will be a little bit smaller, but the outer display is what I'm kind of concerned about here with the iPhone Fold, because it's only 5.5 inches compared to 6 inches on the Z Fold 7. And that's one of the main reasons I love the Z Fold 7 is because of the outer screen being so big, so you can use it like a regular phone if you want to. So I'm sure Apple will do fine with it, but I'm just kind of concerned with the size of that. But I think the thing that I'm most, looking forward to seeing is how Apple implements the software for this foldable, because from what we're hearing, it's not going to be anything groundbreaking. It's going to be similar to what we see from Samsung when they release their Z Fold 8. It's probably going to be very similar to that, but the software is what's most likely going to differentiate it. And then finally, just as tradition, we have another crazy AirTag story. So this time, a San Antonio woman said that her son woke her up at 2 a.m. saying that his iPhone alerted him of an unknown AirTag that was tracking them. Now, since the mom has an Android phone and claims that she was never alerted, although it's supposed to send alerts to Androids as well. Anyways, her son was able to use his iPhone to locate the AirTag, which was tucked in the back pocket of the front passenger seat of his mom's Jeep. So of course they were curious about who was tracking them with this AirTag, and turns out the son managed to pull up the registration info, which obviously shows the phone number of the owner of the AirTag, and it showed that it belonged to the mom named Marie. It belonged to Marie's ex-boyfriend, who is a police officer pilot. So Marie said that she felt very violated and had no idea how long she'd been tracked. But things got even more unsettling when she later realized that her ex-boyfriend had also taken pictures of her Jeep and of her parents' house where she was at from his SAPD Eagle helicopter to, quote, make sure she was where she said she was. Now, the cop admitted to previously dating Marie, but claimed that she gave him permission to put the AirTag in her car, but Marie said absolutely not to ever giving him that permission. And he even claimed that the photos from the helicopter were not meant in a threatening way and suggested that she was just upset because he ended the relationship. Ultimately, the police department ruled it a he said, she said situation, and since the internal affairs investigation didn't lead to a formal discipline, the ex-boyfriend cop was able to keep his job with no penalty. Meanwhile, Marie said that she lost her contract job with the city after an anonymous caller contacted her employer during this investigation. And what's weird is that in that same department in San Antonio, there was a police officer who was linked to AirTag tracking in the past last year, and he was suspended for a domestic incident involving the AirTag hidden in a shared vehicle. But in Marie's case, there were no charges filed and no consequences for the cop, and of course she's feeling left like there's no justice for what's happened. So I don't know. It sounds like a he said, she said, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on this story? But if it weren't for the AirTag, of course, like I always say, none of this would have ever been found out, and maybe they'd still be together unless he was tracking after they broke up. I don't know. Regardless, let me know your thoughts about the story down below. These AirTag stories are always fun and always crazy. There's always some drama at the end of these episodes. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. There wasn't really a ton of news this week aside from the software side of things like iOS 26 public beta and beta 4. There wasn't really a lot going on. iOS 18.6 is going to be a very minor update that will be coming next week. I will have a video on that, but it's going to be a very minor update. So if you're on 18 at this point, just be looking forward to iOS 26 in September. And by the way, if you purchased the Lustra wallpaper collection, be sure to send me some photos of your devices with the wallpapers on them. So not a screenshot, an actual photo of your device rocking the wallpaper. I will feature some of those in later videos. So hope you guys are enjoying that one. I think it's one of the best. It goes so good with iOS 26. But also make sure you check out the Discord server and the appleden.com for the newsletter. Otherwise, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it again, and I will see you very soon.